this is an important school because they don't see you for what you are, but for what you will become. In the 12th year, I did a huge conference on for pupils with 400 people or so coming from all over the Waldorf world. And I think that inspired me to really believe into this movement, that we can achieve really things when we do it together.
This festival here in Brussels puts the focus on the cooperation between experts from inside and outside the Waldorf movement, and together with politicians, students, alumni, and all who are interested in this work, to share our ideas. Why? To encourage each other and to tackle the big challenges which we have for the future. And especially we as Waldorf movement are very happy that this, looking at the whole of the whole human being with all its wonderful fields, that this is a topic also in the European Union, and it's something where we see, everybody here sees that this is the perspective really for the future.
I think what's really interesting about what we've heard at the conference so far is about this approach to learning. As Gert Biester said, it's thinking about the emergence of the I, about being happy and at home in the world. And if we think about that, it's about not being the best individual you can be over others, but more the best version of yourself. And I think that really resonates, particularly with the work that we do with the ministries about their approach to school development. So it's not being about the best school over others, but about being the best version of the school you can be within the community in which you work.
I think it's very important, what I think you have heard much about our school is that learning and going to school shouldn't be competition. Like, it's not that you have to get the best grades because it's elsewhere you're not as good people. So I think that's something very important in education, that everybody's equal no matter what grades you have, and also like you're just as good a student if you can make good music and when you can do good mathematics or something. And also that what I said at the beginning, that you have to question everything and that you don't have to, when people tell you things, just think, yes, it's right, and now I'm going to work with that. You really have to always question things.
We've heard what students expect for us, and our job is also to improve schools and education in Europe, because otherwise I shouldn't be here and shouldn't be doing my job. So how we do it, we collect ideas, and then we try to find ways of putting it in practice. So I mean, big thanks for you, for the organizers. You've discussed 8 key competences, which we have discussed at policy level. And our experience is it's all nice to talk about all these competences. How to actually make it happen is just another thing. So we're very, very grateful for all the ideas we got here during the workshops now to how to put this in practice. And our idea is that with these ideas to feed it back into those who take decisions at the national level, school heads, and so on. That's one, policy learning. And secondly, we have this wonderful program, Erasmus, which is a lifelong learning program, which covers schools, vocational training, higher education, adults. And we are funding many, many projects which put schools together, exchange good practice, always with the idea, if we put experiences together, at the end of the day, we should have better education.
And the idea of this European Council, the first idea is to build a consciousness for Europe. A consciousness where a working together in a healthy way is possible.
And I would like to just briefly sum up our priorities in our work as an organization that are also a summary of what we need. Our schools really need freedom of curriculum so that we are able to deliver to the needs of the learners, that we can support them in becoming their best selves. So we need freedom of curriculum. We also need freedom of school choice, of course, so that we can offer what we have to offer to schools. And that is often a money question, not because we want it to be a money question, but often because we don't get public funding to offer our approach to the broad majority. And I'm looking at you now because you sit with the SMD group, and we want this to be an inclusive education that's open for everybody. And then you raised the question of assessment. And here in the room are several people who are now involved in a project where we want to collect formative assessment practices. So we are in the middle of the debate. We have a problem with standardization of education. We have a problem with standardized testing. We want to see more formative, more individualized, more personalized assessment. And then finally, there is this whole question of the ICT and media education that also the petition is about, that was circulated today. How can we achieve that what we do there with the digital technologies in schools reflects child development, is tailored to their developmental needs, reflects their age, and doesn't harm them?
And then on the other hand, they have to give room for freedom for the children to develop themselves. And because they're not educators, they're politicians, and this freedom has to be given there. So it's always in between these two forces. On one hand, we want to make sure that society is still the society, that everyone works together, we can understand each other. And on the other hand, we want to give the freedom for those who actually know.
So, but what we want to achieve is to give teachers more freedom, you know, so that they decide on the spot, in the classroom, in front of their students, what and how and when they are going to teach. So it's about students, it's not about content. So this is a paradigm shift that we have introduced in Croatian school, and I think it is in line with Waldorf Steiner pedagogies, because we want teachers to decide for themselves how they are going to empower students to become better, to improve. And also what students said, that we want to give them opportunity to do research, to find out answers, to question things, and we are there for them to help them when they need help, you know. But we want to create critical thinkers and also students who create. I think it is very important that we give them an opportunity to create, to invent new things. Also, I think teachers need to be creators. I see the role of the teacher and the student the same in this sense. So they are, both teachers and students are creators, inventors of new knowledge, new content, and new information.
I mean, I very much believe in this creativity of teachers and of pupils and of schools in general. In practice, however, the experience is we have excellent schools and we have really bad schools. I mean, as you have good commission officials and bad commissions, you also have wonderful teachers and you have rather bad teachers. And if you force pupils and students to spend so many hours a week in the school, I think there's also a certain responsibility to make sure that it's actually quality that is delivered. So I think the thing will be to get the right balance between the autonomy which is needed to let everyone develop what they have, and so some sort of accountability to make sure that the time spent in school is well spent. I fully agree that the assessment sometimes went into a direction that you only assessed certain things because it was technically possible to assess it. But I very much believe in what you mentioned as the formative assessment. We need to find a way of looking in how things are going in order then to discuss how can we improve things. So I think that needs to be found, and that's what we have. We are working together. I mean, and you, Georg, you're part of a group that we have luckily together at European level where we're exchanging and trying to find solution of it. How can we make quality assurance to achieve what we want to achieve?
As for assessment, as a teacher, I have always dreamt about a job as a teacher who teaches. who doesn't assess, By teaching, I don't mean delivering lectures or telling students what to learn, but by being a moderator, inspiring students to create, develop their critical and creative thinking skills. However, I think that formative assessment is very valuable because it can help students decide what to learn, how to learn, and it can help teachers decide what to teach and how to teach. Yes, in Croatia, we have introduced digital tools and digital equipment in all schools, but by no means would I say that it means we have now digitalized Croatian education. Far from that. So what we want to achieve is that all the teachers and all the students have technology at their fingertips so that they use it when it contributes to their learning, and not because they need to use technology. So technology should be invisible. Technology should be just like this blackboard and chalk, So teachers need to know how to use it, when to use it, so that they help learners learn.
That's maybe also linked for digital. I mean, digital or not, for me, digital is extremely important because it's part of everyday's world nowadays, simply. It's something we cannot deny. But it doesn't change the fundamental objectives of education. Education is just there. We want to develop people who are able to live in nowadays societies. And then digital is just a means to use it or not to use it.
It's my experience that if you're working with people who feel excluded, who feel marginalized, actually you have to have a broader approach to different learning styles, and the arts are absolutely fundamental to this. Arts and culture more widely, I should say. So I think any education system that is narrow and that focuses on learning by rote and exams and targets and, immense amounts of bureaucracy and isn't child-centered is actually doing a disservice, not just to the children, but also to our wider societies. And that has a bearing on our economy. So we've got a lot of politicians, a lot of governments at the minute thinking about GDP, thinking about the future of work. And yet we have countries, including my own country, the UK. I'm not very proud of my country at the minute, but we have a government that is really narrowing that curriculum all the time. And at the same time, telling teachers to do more and more and making teachers more and more responsible, actually, for the failure of students. But if young people are not happy in their environments, if play becomes something that only happens in the playground and not in the classroom, I think we have a real problem. As a co-legislator now and as a policymaker, I'm really advocating all the time to raise up arts and culture as an absolutely crucial and fundamental pillar in our society, not an add-on, not something that we can do without, not a luxury. But if we don't put it at the center of everything that we do, then I think we are we are just storing up problems for the future, and we are really not giving our young people and our lifelong learners, let's talk about lifelong learning too, then we're not giving our learning societies the tools, the best tools that they could have. So sometimes we have to look in the places where people are least expecting the most innovative work, and that's often where we find it.
The education we believe in has everything. It doesn't start from arts, but we have cultural awareness as one of the 8 things we want. So we have literacy there, we have mathematics, we have science there, but we also have digital there. We have personal social development and cultural awareness. So we very much believe it's part of it. But of course, you also need science and mathematics and literacy and languages. But look at these 8 key competences, and that's the most basic, I think, view of how education should be as it is discussed at the moment at the European level.
I am very proud to have changed the Commission's language in the last 5 years to turn STEM into STEAM. And the A in there is arts. And when the Commission announced the new culture agenda, they talked about STEAM. And it's really important that everywhere you go, you stop people from talking about STEM. You use the word STEAM and you tell them what that is, because that means we don't have these artificial divisions between science and the arts, because they are artificial. Scientists, in order to innovate, in order to solve problems, in order to come up with new ideas, have to be creative thinkers. They have to think outside the box. Otherwise, we're never going to solve the problems and have the inventions that we need. And artists are naturally scientific. Painters are working with chemistry, dancers and musicians are working with numbers, dancers are working with spatial awareness as well. And filmmakers are working with science and technology all the time.
I was very happy about some ideas raising up in the working group schools of the European Commission, where the question was of development and change. And there it was quite clear, all people who are related with education in any kind, they all have to be learner. They have to feel being a learner. That means not only the people at the school, but also the administration up to the ministries.
I very like the ideas of doing education in a bit different way, to thinking about what is good education, what is good for everyone, for teachers, for the pupils, and afterwards for society. So it's a very broad approach to education. So that's something I like. It combines theory and practical aspects. And I like the idea of also looking about knowledge and also how to apply the knowledge. And in general, I like the approach to always try something new. And that's very nice. We try to support any school in Europe. So we are very happy if we get applications, for example, from Erasmus projects in our Erasmus program from Waldorf schools. I think it's really good if Waldorf schools work amongst themselves, but also if they work with other schools together. And I think it's also good for Waldorf students, as for any other pupils and students, to also go abroad with the help of our program. I mean, you can either work via e-twinning with other schools across Europe, or you can have projects which have school exchanges. Yourself, the students can move, but the teachers can also move across Europe. And we're very happy if it works. Also very happy that some of the Waldorf representatives, they work with us in our working groups which try to improve school education in Europe. And they are very active there. I'm very grateful for that. Already nowadays, I mean, even young students are already part of the society. So make your voice heard. Tell us what you expect from us. We will not be able to always live up to your expectation. That's very important for us, that you live up. And invest in it. I mean, really to have a positive look on the world. I mean, that's what I find very important.